English Language and Literature, Class 10. The poem that we are going to take up today is Amanda by Robin Klein. The textbook that you have to refer to is First Flight. Before we start with the explanation and analysis of the poem, let us know more about the poet Robin Klein, an Australian writer of books for children. She had her first short story published at the age of 16. She writes fiction for children and young adults. Some of her famous writings are Hating Alison Ashley, People Might Hear You, Halfway Across the Galaxy, etc. Several of her books have been listed for CBSE Children Book of the Year Award. In the poem Amanda, Robin Klein gives us a glimpse into the psyche of a young girl who is constantly pointed out by the parental figure, possibly her mother, for making mistakes and not following instructions. Amanda feels that her freedom has been curtailed by her overcautious mother, whose obsessive concern drives the child to disconnect with her suffocating reality and find solace in her world of imagination. Let's talk about the narrative style of the poem. The poem has a conversational style, even though the conversation is more or less one-sided. Amanda's mother is the only speaker, as evident in stanzas 1, 3, 5, and 7, whereas the views of the young girl, given within parentheses or brackets in stanzas 2, 4, and 6, are not uttered. The poet uses parentheses to present the imagination of this girl and the free flow of her thoughts, and to also distinguish her thoughts from the words of the other speaker. The child seems to be listening in silence, but in reality, her imagination, which is fast at work, transports her from the real world to worlds of fancies that she creates to escape the constant nagging of her parent. Let us now read and understand the poem. Paragraph-wise explanation will be taken up. Let's start. Stanza 1. Don't bite your nails, Amanda. Don't hunch your shoulders, Amanda. Stop that slouching and sit up straight, Amanda. So the very first stanza itself reveals the dynamics between the mother and the daughter. The mother adopts an authoritative tone and prohibits the young girl from biting her nails. Don't hunch your shoulders. Hunch. The meaning of the term hunch is to bend the top of one's body forward. Stop that slouching and sit up straight. Slouching means having a lazy, drooping posture or movement. So the mother instructs her child to sit with an erect posture. The poet here focuses on the aspects related to the upbringing of a child and how parents go to any limit to bring proper sense to their child. Amanda is thus getting trained for the society she's a part of. The pressure of making oneself presentable to the society, it triumphs over every other behavior and mannerism. The last phrase, the last word, Amanda, it is used with an exclamation mark. This shows the irritation and frustration of the parent. Moving on to stanza 2. There is a languid emerald sea, where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid, drifting blissfully. In the second stanza, Amanda is the speaker, though her thoughts are not expressed openly or vocally. Fed up of this barrage of instructions, she drifts to a world of imagination, where she imagines herself to be a joyful mermaid. A mermaid is a mythical creature with the head and torso of a human and the tail of a fish. The term languid means calm or relaxed, and the term emerald refers to the green water of the sea. Thus, Amanda imagines herself floating on the soft waves of the green sea. Note the usage of the word soul in the second line. It highlights the child's longing to lead a solitary life and be a part of a world which is free, where her source of happiness would not require the presence of any other human being. For Amanda, a mermaid is a symbol of freedom and wonder. Coming to stanza 3. Did you finish your homework, Amanda? Did you tidy your room, Amanda? I thought I told you to clean your shoes, Amanda. In the third stanza, Amanda is pulled back to the real world, wherein her mother sternly asks her whether she has finished her homework, tidied up her room, cleaned her shoes. This once again highlights the commanding nature of the mother, who is now coaching the child about the things that are related to her surroundings. The way these instructions are delivered, it points out the regular nature of these lessons. The word Amanda, once again used with an exclamation mark, shows how the parent is losing cool due to the careless demeanor of the child. Stanza 4. I am an orphan, roaming the street. I pattern soft dust with my hushed bare feet. The silence is golden, the freedom is sweet. In the fourth stanza, we get to witness Amanda's reaction to the harsh tone adopted by her mother. The young girl goes as far as imagining herself as an orphan who would lead an enjoyable life without any parents, who would just curb her freedom. In her imagination, she's barefoot, making her feet dirtier by creating patterns on the dusty ground. Her feet are hushed, they are silent, they are quiet, as she aimlessly roams about without any purpose or responsibility. Please note the last line of the stanza. The silence is golden and freedom is sweet. This sentence highlights how the young girl cherishes the silence as well as the freedom to do as she likes in that world of her imagination. For her, silence will be golden or glorious, and the freedom to exercise her will taste sweet. Stanza 5. Don't eat that chocolate, Amanda. Remember your acne, Amanda. Will you please look at me when I'm speaking to you, Amanda? In the fifth stanza, we see Amanda's mother prohibiting the child from eating chocolates as it could aggravate her acne. Acne is a skin condition that is marked by breakout of pimples on the face. We see how consciously or maybe unconsciously the parent makes the child conscious of a natural experience such as acne. However, Amanda is still lost in her own thoughts and she doesn't care enough to even look up at her scolding mother. She has become indifferent to the instructions and queries of her parent and prefers to hold on to her world of imagination, away from the stifling environment of her house. Coming to stanza 6. We are once again transported to Amanda's world of imagination. Let's see how. I am Rapunzel. I have not a care. Life in a tower is tranquil and rare. I'll certainly never let down my bright hair. So let's see. Here, Amanda, she visualizes herself as Rapunzel, the famous German fairy tale character with long hair. Rapunzel was snatched away from her parents by a witch and forced to lead a life of solitude in a tower. But that is probably Amanda's idea of an ideal life, to lead a tranquil or peaceful life away from her nagging parents. She believes this kind of opportunity for a peaceful life, it's something rare to come by. She seeks a life which is away from any other human form, and thus decides that unlike Rapunzel, she will not let her hair down and have her peace disturbed by another being in her life. We can see how firm she is in her decision. The last line, line 3, the words never and the exclamatory mark at the end, they highlight how firm she is in her decision to not let her hair down. Coming to the last stanza, stanza 7. Stop that sulking at once, Amanda. You're always so moody, Amanda. Anyone would think that I nagged at you, Amanda. The last stanza of the poem, it highlights how Amanda's parent is conscious of what people think about her and thus orders the young girl to snap out of her sullen or morose mood to avoid the risk of people questioning their parenting skills. They're concerned about how society will perceive them if their child always remains in a foul mood. The meaning of the term sulking, it's being silent, morose, bad-tempered out of annoyance, and we know Amanda is annoyed by the constant nagging of the parent, constant pestering of her parent. This is the end of the explanation part of the text. Let's move on to the analysis part, where we discuss the title, theme, message, and the literary devices used in the poem. Let's start with the justification of title, Amanda. The poet has rightly titled the poem after the central character. What requires understanding is the exclamatory mark used in the title. This punctuation mark highlights the authoritative and commanding nature of the parent, who has adopted an unsympathetic tone while addressing her child. Thus, Amanda is an apt title. Let's come to the themes. The poem deals with the psychology of a child and how sometimes parents lack the insight when it comes to understanding the thought process of their child. Every child wants to enjoy freedom, but feels that he or she is controlled and instructed not to do one thing or another. Children have certain habits which are disapproved of by their parents. The parents teach them to mend those habits. This is, of course, for their benefit, but it is the parents who are responsible for the proper upbringing of their child, and they should be careful that their nagging should not make the child feel suffocated. Coming to the message, the poem conveys the message that excessive nagging may make a child stubborn, obstinate, rebellious. Children should be allowed more liberty, and there is a need for parents to develop a healthy, a friendly relationship with their children which would aid them in grooming their child properly. Children can learn etiquettes, values, ethics when treated with kindness and affection. Suppression only leads to defiance. Let us now discuss the literary devices that have been used in the poem, starting with alliteration, which is the occurrence of the same sound at the beginning of adjacent or closely connected words. It has been used in the following lines. Stop that slouching and sit up straight. Life in a tower is tranquil. Stop that sulking at once. So we can see the occurrence of the same sound at the beginning of closely connected words. The speech sound has been highlighted. Let's talk about the next literary device, that is repetition. Repetition is repeating of a word or phrase for emphasis or for musical effect. So the example of repetition would be, the repeated use of Amanda's name. Amanda's name has been used 12 times. It has been repeated 12 times in the poem to emphasize on the commanding nature of the parent and to highlight the authoritative tone she adopts to address her child. Coming to the next literary device, that is anaphora. Anaphora is the repetition of words or a group of words at the beginning of sentences or clauses. Anaphora is used in the lines, don't bite your nails, Amanda. Don't hunch your shoulders, Amanda. It's also used in, did you finish your work, Amanda? Did you tidy your room, Amanda? So the repetition of don't and did you, it once again highlights the commanding tone of the mother and the harsh treatment meted out to the child. Coming to the use of metaphor, which indicates the implicit comparisons of things with common features or attributes without the express use of words like or as. It has been used in the following sentences. Where the sole inhabitant is me, a mermaid. I am an orphan. I am Rapunzel. As already discussed in the previous slides, Amanda imagines herself as the mythical sea creature, an orphan enjoying a life free of nagging and unwanted instructions, and a fairy tale character, Rapunzel, leading a solitary life in a tower far away. Metaphor has also been used in silence is golden. Just like gold, the idea of a quiet and silent life appears to be an appealing prospect for Amanda. The poet also uses metaphor in freedom is sweet, as for Amanda, freedom to exercise her will be both refreshing and sweet. Allusion is another literary device that has been used in the poem. It refers to significant reference to a well-known person, place, thing, or idea of historical, mythological, cultural, political, or literary significance. So the poet here makes reference to a famous mythological sea creature, a mermaid, and also a reference to the famous German fairy tale character, Rapunzel. Imagery is another literary device used in the poem, where the poet describes Amanda's world of imagination. She uses descriptive vocabulary to create vivid images in the mind of the readers. Please note the rhyme scheme of the poem, that is AABA CCC. This is the end of the analysis of the poem Amanda. Thank you for your time. Take good care of yourself and be safe.